Hey Star Wars fans, it's your old friend Dominic Tringali here again with another one of my installments of the Star Wars Build the Millennium Falcon model kit by D. Agostini. Their little catchline is Build the Model, Explore the Galaxy. So every issue comes with some articles about the Star Wars galaxy and then some pieces in a bag that you put together week after week to form what I have done so far, which is a one-for-one replica of the Millennium Falcon prop from the filming of Star Wars Episode 5, Empire Strikes Back. So each issue is $10.99. After the first issue, which is €3.50, every 25th issue for me was free. I'm up to issue 53 now, so that brings the grand total to a whopping €553. My God, it's just outrageous. But, you know, when this thing's all done, it's going to be really cool. So anyway, let me go ahead and jump into each article from the magazine so I can just give you an idea of what was discussed in these three issues. So in issue 51, we have this article about the TIE SA bomber, which I found out, interestingly enough, from this article that originally they had intended to have the bomber in Episode 4, A New Hope, but they decided at the last minute not to have it. And then, of course, it makes its first appearance on its bombing runs of the asteroid field of Hoth. Yeah, so here's some footage of the TIE bomber they originally modeled, the model they made in the original Star Wars film, A New Hope. The next article in issue 51 is this article about pod racing on Tatooine. Nothing really interesting there that you wouldn't have expected. Always talks about Malastare, of course, you know, which Qui-Gon Jinn had mentioned. He had seen pod racing on Malastare, very fast, very dangerous. Apparently on Tatooine, the actual arena is a Sand People holy ground. That's why they're so pissed off, and they're actually shooting at the racers themselves. It's not like they're just random assholes just firing off. Apparently these guys are more or less terrorists, just mad because their religious space had been invaded. In issue 51, the last article is this section on power cores, which is talking about hypermatter versus fusion power cores. Essentially, you know, power cores power everything. Without a power core, you can't really do anything in space. Spaceships require an immense amount of power. Portable power cores do exist. The Millennium Falcon, of course, has a very large quad-X power core, which pulls in hypermatter from some other universe and then explodes it. Antimatter explosion. You know, the science. Whenever I see a movie try to give bullshit scientific explanations or anything, I always just call it science. The science of a film. It's not science, it's science. So that's pretty much it. The interesting thing, of course, they talk again about how the Millennium Falcon has been modified so it can pull power from its power core and push it right into the quad lasers. So that's why the Millennium Falcon actually packs a bit of a wallop for a YT-1300. And, of course, in the green section, which is all about construction, we'll get to later on. Issue 52 has this article about the Karak-class light cruiser, which apparently was a favorite cruiser of the Galactic Empire. The strange thing about this thing is apparently it's 350 meters long by 72 meters high, and even though this looks like it's just a small cockpit, it's actually multiple floors. It could have a crew of 2 to 1,092, so as few as 2 people can operate it, and as many as 1,092 could operate it. Passengers 142, 3,500 ton cargo space, class 1 hyperspace. It's like a gunship. It's a light cruiser, but like it's kind of stupid looking in my opinion, considering it's supposed to have this giant multi-floor bridge. I don't know, kind of dumb in my opinion. I've seen this vessel before, but the article wasn't really interesting to me at all. Then there's this article about the history of Nemoidia, which of course is the Trade Federation, the Nemoidians. All about how they started off as a colony of Doros, and then over thousands of years, because of the gravity of Nemoidia, actually transformed into Nemoidians, kind of creating a subspecies all on their own, and then breaking off from the Doros and forming up the Trade Federation and making up all these outpost worlds, which form what they call purse worlds. I guess this is the Trade Federation emblem. I've never actually seen that before. Very interesting. Yeah, just a bunch of stuff about Cato Nemoidia and their planet. Yeah, that's pretty much it. And they also apparently harvest fungus from beetles. I don't know anything about that. Interesting stuff. Rather interesting. The last article is actually a two-part article about escape pods. Obviously, nothing much here other than the YT-1300 has variable, because it's so modular and modifiable, that depending on what your crew capacity is, you are going to have more escape pods or less escape pods. Nothing really too interesting here. The most interesting thing here was this. I'll try to pull it in. This was the original Millennium Falcon. This thing is hideous. It's absolutely hideous. And I swear to God, if they would have actually had this be the Millennium Falcon, this film would have been a flop. There's no way in hell a Millennium Falcon that looks like this would have impressed anybody. It looks retarded. And I don't like to use that phrase too often, but it really does look retarded. But they do have, obviously, these escape pods missing, so that's why that line saying that it seems like a few of their escape pods had been jettisoned during when they got the tractor beamed into the Death Star. Why that would make sense more now. But God, that's just hideous, isn't it? I mean, that is just god awful. But apparently, the opening scene aboard the Tantive 5, which you see all those rebels from Leia's home planet. They put a fight up against the Galactic Empire. That was actually supposed to be interior shots for the Millennium Falcon, but they didn't want to scrap the sets, so they ended up repurposing them. So I thought that was interesting. But God, that's ugly. That is hideous. I'm so glad they did something different. And with issue 53, we talk about the droid Tri-Fighter, which was kind of like a upgrade from the Vulture bots, the Vulture droids. They have the ability to fire rockets that have the buzz droids on them. They attack in 3-man swarms. Ultimately, not a lot of interesting stuff here. Kind of goofy variations, whatnot. Nothing too interesting. Yeah. Speaking of uninteresting articles, we also have this Districts of Coruscant, where they talk about the different districts, mostly talking about the works, which is like the industrial sector of Coruscant. Very uninteresting stuff. And then, of course, this continuation of the section on escape pods, talking about variations on escape pods, even the Wookiee variant, which apparently the Wookiees built a number of escape pods that would launch into space to evacuate the planet had the Trade Federation separatists been able to successfully invade the planet. Yoda used one to escape when Order 66 went off. Apparently some escape pods even have limited hyperspace travel. And that's what Yoda used when he left from Bail Organa's ship and went to Dagobah. Oh, and this is actually interesting. The way they got the effect of the escape pod leaving in the original Star Wars film is they just filmed it falling to the floor. They built it and then magnetized it and then turned off the magnet and it just fell to the floor and they recorded it. So I thought that was kind of interesting how they had to come up with how Industrial Light and Magic came up with how to actually film this scene. Very interesting. So let's go ahead and take a look at parts bags 51, 52, and 53 and see what exactly we're getting ourselves into for today. So here's bags 51, 52, and 53. Let's tear them open and see what we find inside. So in bag 51, we find this piece of hull plating, which we'll be putting on today, some framing, which we'll be putting in next, and the actual brackets. No black screws, but we have plenty of those built up. So let's go ahead and take a look at the instructions and see how these pieces are going to be added to this, which is what we're building on, which of course is the upper hull. So let's go ahead and take a look and see what we can do. So inside that bag with the framing, we found these two pieces of frame, and we found this piece of short ribbing. So following the instructions, the first thing we have to do is to hook this on and put a two-piece adapter here, two-piece adapter here, and connect them together. Obviously, I'm also going to screw in the framing piece to the actual exterior hull plating at the same time, because, like I said, I'm trying to put the exterior hull plating on simultaneously, so I don't have a whole step with just putting plating on. So I'll go ahead and do that right now and show you what it looks like once I have that piece in place. So as you can see, this has now been put into place with these two adapters. The two hole adapters are in place, and this one's been test fitted into place. So I'm going to secure it with another 2-pin right here and put a screw in here, and then I'll show you what it looks like before I fit that last piece of exterior plating onto the framing. Great. So as you can see, I put all the black screws into place to secure these two pieces of framing into their position. The next step is to assemble this short rib the same way as I've done before, which is putting this sleeve over the two connecting pieces and then running gold screws through. And then finally, I'm going to attach it across this short span right here to give the whole thing a little bit more strength. So let me go ahead and do that and show you what it looks like once that short rib is in. So there's the short rib finally assembled, and I actually took a chunk out of my thumb screwing this together. So now I officially have my blood, my sweat, and my tears wrapped up into this thing, on top of a bunch of money as well. So let me go ahead and secure that into place where I had indicated it before, right down Main Street here, and show you what it looks like once that rib's in place. So the rib's in place, and I've already put the outer exterior hull plating to the framing. So now I'm just going to secure all these spots where I can put the actual securing screws into place and give this thing a little bit more structure. Okay, great. Let me do that now. So here's what it should look like after stage 51 is complete. I'll open up the bag for stage 52 and start actually assembling that next. As far as stage 51 instruction goes, I'm done, except it does have some instructions about painting, but I'm not at the painting stage yet. I'm still at the construction phase. So I'll go ahead and open up bag 52 and show you what's in there next. So here are the contents of bag 52. Obviously I have this big center ring, a bunch of different screws for various purposes, a set of magnets, which we'll be putting on this later on today, a bag of plant-on details, and another piece of framing. So looking at the instructions for stage 52, I actually decided that the first thing I'm going to do is to put this exterior hull plating onto the plating I've done so far, just to pull this together and give it a little bit more support. After you put that piece into place, it'll look something like that. Alright, nice. And so the next step I'm going to be doing is attaching another piece of frame right here where you see my pinky. I'm going to be putting the frame piece in right there before I put in the center ring. Alright, great. Let me go ahead and do that now. So to give myself a bit more of a working surface, I've taken out the jig piece from issue 53, and I'm going to go ahead and assemble the 3 pieces of jig that I have so that I'll actually have something to kind of support everything with. So now I have it resting on the working jig, which I've assembled using the instructions from stage 53, It's far more secure this way. I like it. I've already test fitted this piece into place. This is this odd shaped piece here. I'm going to secure it here, here, and here and here. That should be it. And then I'll be able to move on to the next step, which is putting that center ring into place. So let me go ahead and do that now and show you what it looks like before I put that center ring into place. So you can see what it looks like once it's in place. The next step is to fit this ring into here, noting that the notch here and a notch piece here, and those line up and get flush. So I'm going to go ahead and put those into place and then secure all the screws I can and show you what it looks like once that's been done. So after stage 52, this is what it looks like. I have the center ring in place. I went ahead and put this in. I haven't put in the magnets for the pop-away detailing. I'll do that at a later date. Right now I'm just doing mostly the framing stuff. I have it on the jig now. I have this piece in place, and now it's kind of like this bizarre fan and has more form and more strength. So now let me take a look at what's in bag number 53 and see what else we can do for the day. So in bag 53 you'll find this sprue right here and this piece, which, like the machinery piece plant-in detail that from issue 42 and I believe issue 36, we're going to keep those to the side and do those at a later date. Right now we're just focusing on the framing. So I have these two pieces of framing, some more adapters. So let me go ahead and take a look at the instructions and figure out how these all get added to the frame we already have completed. Alright, so the framing pieces are going to go something like this. I'm going to need to start off by attaching a 2-pin adapter here. So I'll go ahead and do that, and then another 2-pin adapter here, and a 4-pin adapter in this area. So I'll go ahead and do that, frame it up, and then I should be done for issue 53 and done for today. I mean, this piece right here, this is just going to go in this general vicinity when it's all assembled, but I'm not going to do that today. So we can bugger off with that for now. Great, let's get working and I'll show you what it looks like when it's all framed up and finished. So after stage 53, the upper hull frame should look like this, and your plating could look like this if you decide to attach the plating as you go. As you can see, that's what it looks like. I'm resting it on the jig for safekeeping. With subsequent issues, I'm hoping to get more of the jig. It looks like with issue 54, I will be getting another piece of jig, more framing, those bolts, some plating. So it'll be another framing issue with issue 54. With issue 53, there was still a number of instructions for painting and a number of instructions on how to assemble this recessed space. I'm not doing that today, so I will save that for a later time. I'll obviously have to take these 2 screws out for the recessed space and put in the longer screws when I'm ready, but right now they are fine the way they are. So that brings me to stage 54. I've completed everything up to this point except for those recessed spaces for the lower hull and for this first recessed space for the upper hull. Join me for stage 54 and onward, where I'll continue the framing and putting these actual plating pieces on. No question of the week. Guys, make sure to hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, so that you won't miss any of the updates. And go ahead and take a look at my previous videos to see how I got to this place I am now. And as always, guys, may the Force be with you.